Who have you been kissing? Is it me? I think it's me. You're the mom. I'm not looking for like a 2-day good time. I'm looking for something to be passionate about. Vampiric Knights of the Round Table that were made by God as though they're angels. This vlog is cursed. So we are going to be kicking this vlog off with a little bit of a haul because I got back off holiday yesterday and I had a couple of parcels waiting for me. I did have a little bit more. I have 2 to open for you guys right now, and I have a few more that are subscription box related. But the first one that we have is, I think, from Waterstones. I'm going to go ahead and guess that this is Saga Volume 10, which I am devastated to read. This is also, it's the 1st of November when I'm opening this, and this, I think that the release date on this comic was the 4th of October, so that's how slow we are currently with Waterstones pre-orders. But yes, it is indeed Saga Volume 10, which I gotta say I'm kind of terrified to read based on how Volume 9 left off, and I'm not even sure how I want to play this. I don't know whether I want to reread the entire series before I get into this, or whether I'm going to kind of just dive into it. The last frame of the last comic was traumatizing, so I am terrified of going into this one and seeing what happens next. But if you guys aren't familiar with Saga, it's one of my favorite series ever. I love it, and it's kind of a Romeo and Juliet set in space, following this couple called Marco and Alana, who are from, I think Alana's from the planet and Marco's from the moon of that planet, and both of them are at war. So these two have fallen in love when they shouldn't, and they've also had a child, and this is told from the perspective of their daughter, kind of like recounting her life from being a small child as her family are on the run from the people from these like respective planet and moon that are trying to hunt them down and kill them. Such an emotional story, such a wonderful story, like the best storytelling I've ever seen in like a graphic format. The hiatus I think has been like 2 to 3 years long at this point, so I'm ready to dive back in, but also after the end of Volume 9 I'm not sure that I am actually ready to dive back in. I might be too scared to ever revisit this series at this point. And then the other package that I have is quite a large one, and it contains what I think I'm gonna start reading as like my first book of November. This is also from the publisher. This is from HarperCollins, maybe Harper Voyager. They sent me all hardbacks and salted caramel truffles. You didn't. Oh my god, guys, thank you so much. Oh, these are gorgeous. I didn't know that these were going to be hardback. I thought they were going to be paperback. But this is the 5 Crowns of Okra series by A.K. Mulford. So the first book in this series is The High Mountain Court. The second is The Witch's Blade. And then the third one that's just been released is The Rogue Crown. So thank you very much to Harper Voyager for sending me these. And the reason why I have received the entire series is that I'm actually going to be interviewing A.K. Mulford on my channel at I think 10 p.m. BST on the 11th of November. It's going to be a live interview, like part of my In Conversations thing that I do from time to time. And I'm super excited because I've actually heard really, really good things about this series. And so because I'm going to be interviewing A.K. Mulford, I think my first book for November is actually going to be The High Mountain Court. So what I know about this is that I'm pretty sure it's fantasy romance, which is why it's on my radar and why people have been recommending it to me. I'm not sure whether it's like adult, new adult, or young adult, but I would kind of assume that it's adult based on it being Harper Voyager. So the main character is the last Red Witch alive, and the Northern Court King who slaughtered her family is kind of hunting her down, so she's trying to stay off the radar up until a Fae warrior walks into the tavern she works at and kind of recognizes her. So I'm assuming, I think he turns out to be the Crown Prince. He's Prince Hale of the Eastern Kingdom. But yeah, generally I've heard really great things about these. People whose fantasy romance recommendations I trust have rated them really highly. So I'm really excited to get stuck in. I'm not saying that this is going to be a series in a week vlog, but I'm not saying it either. Come here. Come here. Yeah. Come here. Come here. Oh, there we go. She's born. She's born. Look, yeah. Good afternoon. I have a cold. I'm calling it the book flu because it was Curtis who coined that name. Actually, I shouldn't take credit for it, but it is very much like a cold that has come from the cottage holiday that I've just been on, and I'm definitely not the only one who's sick either, and I'm not the one who's the most sick out of everyone, which I am grateful for. I have a little bit of a sore throat and I have like a little bit of a raspy cough that I can feel like here, and just a little bit of congestion, so I'm doing all right, but I'm also in that place, you know, the fatigue and achy place when you have a cold.
build. So I'm keeping an eye on it, but so far I'm doing all right. I have also managed to film a ton of videos today. I did want to keep going as well, but the longer I filmed, the kind of like worse I felt, and you could tell when I was getting to the end of a video, because like the more the video went on, the more congested I got throughout it. Brie has also been to the vet today, and she doesn't need to be bandaged anymore. She's also had her cone taken off, so as long as she's not licking it obsessively, she doesn't have to have that back on. But I have also been flying through the high mountain court. I mean, flying through is a bit objective. I'm not even halfway yet, but it's been a while since I've been able to read 100 pages in a day, because that's just not the zone that I've been in. I do feel though that being a little bit under the weather is making me want to read more, and I am doubling up on sprints and sprinting with Ashley tonight, and she's hosting as well, which is like lower maintenance than me, which is great. So I'm hoping maybe I can finish this, because I feel shit. I just want to curl up with a book. But I want to tell you a little bit about this. I'm enjoying it. I am. So the beginning has content warnings. Okay, so let's start here. The content warnings for this. It says themes of violence, blood, war, genocide, parental death, and sexually explicit scenes. I have looked on Goodreads and it's shelved as like mainly new adult, a little bit of adult in there as well. But what I want to say about this is that it reads like YA, not in a bad way, but it reads like YA. It reads like Throne of Glass, and it reads like The Merciful Crow by Margaret Owen. So YA that I really enjoy, but YA nonetheless. So I'm struggling with it slightly because of that, because while the pages and the words are telling me that this love interest is 28, the tone of this book is telling me that everyone's like 19. You know what I'm saying? And our main character is 19, but I don't know. Brie, come here. I just need to go get her. Hey, I guess we're filming like this now. Show everybody, look at that lipstick. Look at that lipstick print. Who have you been kissing? Is it me? I think it's me. You're some. Who's my gorgeous girl. So this follows a young woman who is a red witch, and there are, as the title of the series kind of insinuates, there are 5 different courts in this world. There's north, south, east, west, and also the High Mountain Court. And I think it was about 12 years before the start of this book, the king from the north infiltrated the High Mountain Court and killed all of the High Mountain Fae, and has continued since then hunting down all of the red witches. Each court has a color of witch that's like native to them, and the red witches were native to the High Mountain Court. So our main character is a red witch, and she's been in hiding her entire life. She keeps to kind of like backwater taverns so that she doesn't draw too much attention to herself. But one day the heir to the Eastern Court comes into her tavern and says that he needs a red witch to help him find a talisman that is going to help him and the other court stop the Northern King, because while the main character feels like she can't, like she has a bit of a bone to pick with him because his court and the other courts didn't stand up against the Northern King when they infiltrated the High Mountain Court, she also kind of acknowledges that no other court had the power, even if they banded together, to stop the Northern King. So she agrees to help him find these artifacts so that he can hopefully stand a chance with the other courts at turning back the Northern King and the Northern Court before war happens, and then maybe they can re-establish the High Mountain Court. So it is very clear from the offset that the relationship, romance, any kind of love interest is going to be between those two. Like I said, it reads very much like YA that I enjoy. It reads very much like Throne of Glass, and I am liking it. I am invested, but I don't feel like I'm as invested in the romance as I would be if it didn't read quite so YA. I haven't had any payoff on a plot twist yet, but there is something that's been mentioned which I feel links into something else, and I'm being very vague obviously because I don't want to spoil it for you guys, but I feel like there's a very predictable plot twist come in. I don't understand the specifics of it based on what I know about the magic system so far, but I'm kind of predicting that. I do find the love interest, Prince Hale, very attractive because, like I said, while it reads like YA, it's YA that I enjoy. I've been sucked in by many a book like this over the last decade, so it is still doing it for me in that regard. We have had some elements of sexual attention. It has like the kind of tropes of like touch her and I'll kill you, which I really enjoy. It's a whole vibe, but it is very much a vibe that I've kind of read before, but that doesn't make it that much less enjoyable for me because it is something that I have continuously enjoyed. So yeah, that is where we're at with this. Did I tell you how far I am into it? I'm on page 136. My aim for tonight, I guess, is to kind of finish it because Curtis is going out watching the football quite early, and I also have sprints, so I can get an early start on reading before sprints and then hopefully finish it out by the end of the night. I'm just generally enjoying how readable this is as well. It's giving me like romantic vibes, which you all know I love. It's giving giving me high fantasy vibes, which you all know I love, and it's compulsively readable, like it's keeping me hooked. So I'm definitely having a great time with it. It's just sadly, I want to say like my main issue that I'm highlighting here is that it's not as adult as I wanted it to be. Like it reads like a YA fantasy, just with like more adult themes in terms of, I don't know if there is any swearing in it, I haven't noticed, but according to the content warnings, it has like explicitly sexual scenes. The characters are older than in YA, and to be honest actually though, the other warnings, violence, blood, war, genocide and parental death, I feel are pretty standard for like high fantasy YA, so there's nothing too different there. I guess I would have just liked a little bit more complexity in it, but it's like, it's still a good time.
Afternoon on a train, I only took it because it started to rain. Afternoon in the fall.
It's been a couple of days. I am pretty much almost recovered from the cold. Thursday was rough, guys. Yesterday wasn't great, but today I am feeling much better. And I have finished a book, which of course is The High Mountain Court by A.K. Mulford, and I enjoyed this, but you know how we've been talking a lot recently, and I am just repeating myself over and over again here, but you know how we've been talking in previous vlogs about how tailbone, sat on it funny, how I don't like books that people generally regard as like fun. And I've been thinking about this a lot while I've been reading this, because I read Pestilence last week, and that is the kind of like a similar kind of book, but I actually really enjoyed this one. Whereas this, like, I did enjoy it, but it was also losing my interest a little bit. And I think one of the things about this is that it is quite plot driven, whereas for me in a romance, like, I really need character driven. When you're coming to fantasy romance, the thing that I particularly love about it is you have all of the things that you love about romance, but the stakes are so much higher because you have like a lot of life or death kind of situations, and a lot of like sacrifice and having to split up, and a lot of like traumatic kind of things, I guess, that you don't get in like contemporary romance typically, unless you're reading dark romance. But if you're not, if the book isn't character driven, you're not creating that bond with the characters for those things to really like impact you and have a lasting effect on you. So when it comes to something like this, which does have romance in, but it's very plot driven, like there's a lot of action scenes in it, if you like a fun, fast-paced story with a bit of romance, I think that you may really enjoy this. It was enjoyable in a way where like it felt kind of comforting to me, in that it was very reminiscent of things that I used to read and enjoy, like early Throne of Glass. But then the longer it kind of went on, the way that it continued to be predictable and kind of not really engage me on that character front, the less interest, like I was losing interest in it as we went on. So the last 50 pages were hard. It was fun. It's just I don't like fun books, and I do think it's because I need to be engaged. Like it needs to feel high stakes to me, or like if it's not the kind of thing that is high stakes, like it needs to kind of hook my attention. Like I really like sci-fi because it interests me, like it makes my brain work, and I really like fantasy romance is my favorite genre because it engages me emotionally in a way that a lot of media doesn't. And I like high fantasy because it's intricate and I like pulling out all of the threads of the plot. And while I do read for enjoyment, I predominantly, I feel, read to engage my heart and my brain in something and be invested in something. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but I'm very like invested in pop culture when I like it. Like I can make a TV show. Buffy the Vampire Slayer is my personality, and I have a lot of passion for media and pop culture, which is what I'm looking for in books. I'm not looking for like a 2-day good time. I'm looking for something to be passionate about, and that's not what quick fun stories do for me. So that being said, if you like that, if you want a fun read that you will just kind of enjoy but doesn't do anything exceptional, you'll enjoy this. But if you have the same taste in fantasy romance as I do, where you like the slower character driven things with the higher stakes, you may not enjoy this one as much. So I gave it 3 stars because I did enjoy it, but it doesn't stand out
to me, which is sad because I've actually heard really good things about this, and Catherine Karras actually gave this 5 stars. And I used to watch Catherine Karras like years ago before she moved to New York, and the books that she was talking about then, like Danielle L. Jensen, are books that I read much later and have really enjoyed. So we do kind of have a similar taste, I felt, in fantasy romance, but this did not do it for me as much as I wanted it to. And I don't know what I want to read now. I am participating in Empty Shell. Oh my god. Cleo Ship. So that does actually, it did work out that it fits as the first prompt, which is I think to read a book with a romantic subplot. I can't remember what the third prompt is, but I know the second one is to read a book that you could finish in a night. And I've just posted a poll on Twitter. I'll see how it's doing because I wanted to know. I'm so indecisive. I don't know whether I want to just read this or whether I want to reread the entire thing, because I don't want to force myself through a reread, but I also, like, if I start a reread, I don't want to kind of put it on pause or abandon it halfway through because I know it'll take me ages to go back. At the minute, I mean, it doesn't have many votes, but 63% of them are reread, which makes me think that I should do a separate vlog for it. Is that interesting? I don't know. By the time you're watching this, I may have already decided what I'm doing. Regardless, some volume of Saga I think is going to fit for that prompt. And if I check what volume 3 is, because I don't know if I want to continue with this series. My heart is saying I don't really want to, but then also I'm feeling like I don't particularly, like, there's nothing right now that I'm like, yes, I want to read that. So maybe I need to give it a few hours to decide, because I feel like I'm just not really right this second wanting to read. I was gonna look something up and I can't remember what it is. Oh, the prompt. The worst part of having a cold for me is the fatigue and the brain fog. I cannot remember shit. I just started typing Coldplay into Twitter and I don't know why. I don't even like Coldplay. Okay, prompt number 3. Aha. Ha ha ha. A book that is sexy under the covers, so pretty under the dust jacket, which this is not. Well, I mean, they've all been published recently, so I don't think this one will be any different. I mean, I do like the spine on it, but I feel like because I have so many books that are gorgeous under the dust jacket that I can't really swing it. But I don't even know if I want to read this. I feel like I'm going to wait a little bit to decide. I wasn't going to pick this up, but then I think, let's see what it says. It's Roa, I know that. Oh. It's enemies to lovers. I had a feeling when it kind of sets up this book and you know who it's going to be, because this is like a series of, I think, standalones with an overarching plot, so like individual couples, because there's very clear from the end of the High Mountain Court that there is more that can be done in this world. So when it set up who this was going to be, there were 2 options for a love interest, and I didn't know whether it was going to be enemies to lovers or sapphic, and I feel like we're going enemies to lovers, which makes me want to give it a try. It is also the longest of them at 370 pages. I don't have anything to do tomorrow. I've kind of boxed off this weekend as well just to do not a lot when I found out that I wasn't well, and like this always happens. I persevered through work yesterday and decided I was maybe thinking of taking it off and working today instead, and I thought, you know what, work on Friday, have Saturday off, because Curtis also has Saturday off, because I don't like working when Curtis isn't working, especially if he's like hanging around downstairs. So now that I've taken today off and was like, okay, do nothing but read, I feel a bit better. So I'm restless, as I always am, and I've decided that I'm cooking a roast on a Saturday. I don't know why. It is bonfire night as well, but I don't know if we're going to the bonfire because online it says that tickets have sold out, and also it wasn't very good last year. They've changed the company that does it, and it's the same one as last year, which wasn't very good and it was really expensive. So I think depending on how I feel cold wise, because I obviously don't want to make myself worse when I've just got better, and also depending on the weather, depends whether we'll go out, but bonfire night is actually one of my favorite nights of the year, and it is also the day that Curtis and I met. And also don't worry about Brie, she's not actually all that bothered about fireworks. She just looks a bit confused when they're going off. I don't even know why I was saying that. I have time to read, I think, is where I was going. This brain fog is killing me off, guys. And this one, oh, interesting. This is an interesting, like these 2 characters, the main characters of the first 2 books make sense. Main character of this one, not so much. So I'm wondering if this is a trilogy or whether it's going to be more. I was thinking maybe I should read the novellas as well during this vlog, or if it did turn out to be like a series in a week kind of thing, but I don't think I'm gonna do now. I think I'm just gonna go for the core novels, so I'm possibly starting this, but I don't know. We'll see. I'll let you guys know when I've decided.
The woman across me, she's wearing a trench coat, a bouquet of roses. I wonder what they're for. A candlelit dinner, a date in the park, a night at the theater, a love in the dark. I don't know where she's going, I don't even know. I don't know if her life is spent.
Good morning. So I was supposed to check in with you guys yesterday and like confirm what I decided to read, and I've only just remembered this morning that I didn't do that, but it's kind of irrelevant now because I did indeed decide that I was going to continue on with this series and read The Witch's Blade, and then this morning I have decided that I am not going to be doing that. So I did switch to the audio for this one. The audiobooks are Audible exclusive and I always have excess credits because I don't listen to a lot of audio. So I decided to give it a try on that, and I will say that I do really enjoy the audio for this series. It's very easy to follow along because of the text, and I do like the narration style, but you know what I'm like for dithering about a decision. This is very reminiscent of when we were reading the Old Kingdom series, and I said, oh, I'll continue on and I'll read book 2, even though I didn't like book 1, and then I very quickly decided to DNF because it takes me ages to come to a decision. So I couldn't have decided not to continue with this series after the first book, so I wasn't mentally, I just wasn't there yet, you know. But then as time went on, I got to the point where I was like, no, like I don't want to continue this series, and once that thought kind of entered my brain, there was no getting out of it, and I could not continue this series. So I don't think it's bad. I think, as we discussed in length in the last clip, it's just not like the style that this is going for is just not for me. Like, I'm not invested in it. This one is different to the first in that the romance is very much a slow burn, in that I'm 150 pages into it, and I would say that there's like mild flirtation. I don't know about the love interest, but the main character is not even really entertaining Renwick as a love interest, and she's also kind of just in passing being like, well, yeah, he's pretty good looking, but not like in the first book where it was like very, very clear that they were going to be into each other. But it's also not really enemies to lovers. It is because of who the characters are, and the kind of plot of this is that they have to work together because they're looking for an artifact. I think it's called the Witch's Glass, which allows people to control witches so that they can like break a curse. So they have to work together for that purpose. They both have kind of violent tendencies in their past, and this is kind of more political because of who they are within this society. So it is a lot of kind of like traveling around. There's also talks of like rebuilding and stuff because of things that have been destroyed by battles, and it's just very slow, I want to say, which is very much in contrast to the first book in this series, which, as I said, was kind of fast-paced and mainly plot-driven. But where the other one was very fast-paced, I kind of knew everything that was coming and it was more like a fun jaunt. This one is just like, okay, but where, like, there's nothing here is like the hook that's pulling me through this. That being said, like it's a decent read, like it's decently written. The plot is there. There's romantic plot lines throughout here. It's just not my kind of thing because the character, like the level of character attachment is not there for the romance to pull me through this, and I don't feel like the plot is compelling enough for that to be the thing that drags me through this book. So alas, I'm going to be DNFing this one. This series is just not for me. But if you like just a fun fantasy romance series, if you enjoy reading books sometimes just for a good time, just for a little bit of entertainment, and you like your fantasy romance, high fantasy romance, then this might be a series for you. I'm glad at the beginning of this week I said I'm not saying that this is a series in a week vlog, but I'm not saying that. I am now not saying that. I think it's very confusing when you start introducing double negatives into sentences, but we're gonna find something else to read essentially. And I was torn, you know, because I was looking at my TBR because I feel like I need to read something off there at this point, and I was like, do we go fantasy romance because I feel like I've just been burned, but this might be a very different fantasy romance, or do we go for like high fantasy? So I've decided, for the sake of like this being up there on my priority list to read for November, we're gonna go with Gods and Monsters by Janie Marie, which is fantasy romance. I'm hoping that this is going to be good. If this is not going to be good, I'm going to be very upset and probably in denial because the covers for this series are absolutely stunning. So this one is my Patreon pick for October. It is Caitlin's pick, and it's also a gift from Nikki, so thank you very much to Nikki for that, because this is, the main character is a little bit different from what I can tell from the synopsis, which is really intriguing me because she is married or has been married and has just gotten out of a not great
marriage. She also has kids, and this is kind of reminiscent of the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse series by Laura Thalasser, I think, because it's set in a world where the plague of all plagues has begun its destruction, and these saviors that are going to save humanity are actually monsters, and I think that they're like angels or something. The series is called Gods and Monsters, and it says David and his companions are what our world has dismissed as mere legend. Their duty to the human race brings them across the country, and they all know it's no coincidence when they cross paths with Jane. I've heard that the main character is going to drive me wild, and not in a sexy way. I'm hoping for good things. It's 371 pages, so not too long. I like that it's a big paperback as well. We got some big text in here, and fingers crossed I enjoy this one.
A moment on a train, almost at the downtown stop. I'm already late, but I don't wanna get up. Outside the city.
My guys, I hate to say it right now, but I am not sure about Gods and Monsters by Janie Marie. I'm not far into it. The writing isn't great, and it's struggling to hold my attention. I'm on page 44, I'm 6 chapters into it, and it's just moving really quickly and not making a whole ton of sense to me. And then to top it all off, we've just had like some literal insta love. I did not know what to expect going into this, but within the first chapter we are introduced to this woman who's married. She's disconnected from her husband, like they are married, but like she doesn't feel like they're really a couple anymore. They love each other, but they're not really vibing. She has 2 kids. They're twins, and there's like a influenza strain breaking out, which this was published in 2017, but that was super interesting. And it very quickly becomes apparent that it is a zombie plague. So people are getting the flu and then they're biting people, and then it turns into zombies, but like it's clearly not focusing on the science here, because like it's just kind of there is a flu plague and then everybody's zombies, and then within a week literally the world has been overrun. So she is not the brightest bulb in the bulb box, because her husband comes home late from work one day, and he's been to the supermarket to get them like tons of groceries and supplies and stuff, which is fair. And then they start like boarding up their house and stuff, and he tells her that she needs to have her bags packed and the kids' bags packed just in case they need to run. Makes a lot of sense. So then he comes back, or he doesn't. I'm embellishing this more than the book does. It just kind of flicks to a scene where he's complaining about what she's packed. He has looked at what she's packed, and he's pulling like toys and DVDs and like a portable DVD player out of a bag, and he's like, we can't take these, like what are you doing? I told you to pack essentials. And he's a little bit of a dick, I gotta say, but she defends herself and she's like, well, it makes the kids happy. And he's like, we need food, we need clothes, we need medicine. And she still defends her point, and he says to her, so like fair enough, like you're in a little bit of a shock, you want to do the best by your kids, you're thinking of the things that you would pack if you went on holiday to keep your kids entertained, that's fine. But he says to her, would you rather have these things than clothes and medicine? And she says, yes, I just want them to be happy. And I'm like, honey, it doesn't matter how many DVDs you have, because your children will not be happy if they are cold, naked, and starving. And then she jumps out of the window, because there's like an army vehicle that's been like overturned in the street. She jumps out the window of a house and she goes and gets this bag of guns that they've dropped, which fair enough, very useful. But she comes in and she like throws it at her husband's feet, and she's like, well, you thought I was useless, I brought you a bag of guns. And it's like, you still need food, clothes, and medicine. That's still something that is a necessity. And then the guys, they're like actual romantic interests, so not like this woman's husband, I don't even know. So it's been alluded to that they are vampires. They need to feed, and they are going to protect humanity, so fight against this plague to protect their own feeding grounds. And there's different branches of them, so they mention like the Greeks and the rogues, but these guys are vampiric knights of the round table that were made by God as though they're angels. So like we have Arthur, we have Lancelot, we have Gawain in the middle of a zombie apocalypse. It's just so much. And then to top it off, these are spoilers, but not really, because like I said, I'm only on page 45. To top it off, the main guy that we're following is David, and he doesn't have a wife like everybody else has a wife, because he's been waiting to find the other half of himself. So he's on Earth fighting off all of these zombies when he sees this woman who doesn't have a brain cell
in the street, and as soon as he sees her, he realizes that she is his other half just instantly, and then he camps outside her house and decides that he has to protect her, even while he's incredibly disappointed that she has a husband and children. So that's where we're at. I don't know if I can continue this book because the writing's not good, actually, because I at the minute I'm having a decent time with it in terms of like the events, because it's quite entertaining, but the lack of good writing, like the way that the writing's not good and the way that this, it's like hopping and skipping all over the place and kind of just, it's not immersing me in the story because it's not developing any of these. It's kind of like, welcome to the story, we have the flu, we have zombies, Knights of the Round Table, without like kind of developing and really like immersing me in any of those points. So I'm not going to DNF it at this point, because it is very early days. It is a 370 page book, so I did think it was close to like 450, which is fine. But I'm guessing at that length, I want to make it to at least 100 to 150 before I decide what I'm doing with this. And honestly, the amount of books that I've read where the first 100 to 150 pages are not great, and then I really enjoyed the rest, is like some of my favorite books, Red Rising, Nevernight. Did not enjoy the beginning of those books. So I am willing to definitely continue to give it a try, because aside from anything else, like, I was really excited about this because it's beautiful. I feel like authors don't put this much effort and money into how their book looks if their book isn't very good, you know? Obviously they can, it's just not common. So yeah, I will continue for a while and we'll see how I feel when I'm further in. Good morning. It is quite early. I think it's about 8 a.m. now, but I have been up a while, and I've just finished my morning coffee, and I sat down to read with my coffee as I do every morning, and I got to page 65 in this last night, so I was aiming to get to the 100 page mark, and I don't think I can do it anymore. I read half a page, but I got to this certain line, because the writing in this is just really, really cringe. The overuse of adjectives and adverbs and stuff in here, and the overuse of descriptors, essentially. It says, the man beneath her seemed to have woken as well, but neither of them moved, which is fair enough. Also, sorry for the orange flashing. The bin men are just coming past. But that sentence is fine. But then it says, however, the rhythmic beating of his heart, which had no doubt kept her in her blissful slumber, began to pound in his powerfully built chest. And I'm like, you're just describing a little bit too much here. There is like worse instances of the writing, characters making not even stupid decisions, was very unrealistic to try and build attention that is just unsuccessful. And the real reason why I cannot make it to page 100, because I truly was going to, that is, you guys know I always tend to do that, is because when I was updating my page last night on Goodreads, I had a little look at the reviews, and I am not shitting you, every single review for this book is 1 star, so I know that it's not going to get any better. It's kind of like 1 in every 10 reviews is like a 4 star, and the other 9 are 1 or 2. I will say though that the 1 4-star review that I did see, is I had to scroll a while to find it, the 1 4-star review that I did see was from somebody who had picked up this book because they saw it on my channel when I hauled it, and I'm so happy for you. I'm glad that you enjoyed this one, but I am also sorry to the people who maybe saw it on my channel and then rated it 1 star. I do feel kind of bad because this is a Patreon pick, and they definitely don't tend to DNF Patreon picks, but I feel okay because Caitlin didn't want me to read this because she enjoyed it in any way. Caitlin wanted me to read this because Caitlin wanted to know if it was worth Caitlin reading. And I can tell you, Caitlin, my love, it is not. Like, just don't do it. It's painful. I'm devastated about this because the art is gorgeous, and the art for the rest of the series is even more beautiful than this one. I just need to let it go because the art is not the contents of the book. I do this with Holly Black a lot. Like, I really don't like Holly Black's writing, so I haven't read The Cruel Prince, and I really just will never, unless you guys force me to for some reason. And every time I see fan art from The Cruel Prince, I really regret the fact that I haven't read it, and it makes me want to read it. But I know that the fan art isn't going to make the books better, you know? Like, Jude and Carden may look like fire, but I know that Holly Black cannot do them justice. This vlog was actually supposed to run until Friday. I was gonna close it out Friday morning, but I think
think we're done here because I'm not going to finish anything between now and like tomorrow evening. And am I going to finish anything anyway because we seem to be plagued by DNS? You know, I actually considered scrapping this vlog. On Monday, I had this big dilemma about whether I was just going to scrap all of the footage and not continue because I wasn't enjoying the books and I had kind of like a bad feeling about it. And I did actually scrap this vlog. I started a new one and I just filmed like one clip. And then yesterday I decided to come back to this one again because I started editing the footage and was like, you know what, bitch, you're being a bit dramatic. It's not actually all that bad. But now I've DNF'd another book. Maybe it is that bad. November has been just a series of 5 stars because I'm rereading Saga for a different vlog, and DNFs because this vlog is cursed. I'm gonna be putting this travesty behind us, but next week we're gonna be staying away from fantasy romance because I don't think I can do it anymore. I do have a trip coming up as well, which will be in next week's vlog. So I don't know. I need to think about what I'm reading because of that, because obviously my attention isn't 100% going to be there, but we will have some lengthy train journeys, so hopefully I'll be able to read a lot. But yeah, if you want some fantasy content, stay tuned. Aside from that, I do hope you guys have enjoyed this vlog if you've made it this far, because I absolutely 100% have not. Please don't forget to like this vlog if you did like it, and subscribe if you wanna, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Oh, you bite your friend like chocolate. You say you'll go where nobody knows, with guns hidden under our petticoats. We're never gonna quit it, no, we're never gonna quit it, no.